Welcome, listeners. Let's start by confronting a sobering reality. Climate change is accelerating. From record-breaking heat waves to catastrophic floods, the evidence is everywhere. Dr. Ramirez, what are the most pressing impacts you're observing right now?
Absolutely. The situation is urgent. In 2023 alone, NOAA reported over $28 billion climate disasters in the U.S. These aren't isolated incidents. They reflect a systemic shift. Rising sea levels now threaten 40% of the world's population living near coasts.
Given such alarming data, there's a clear demand for clean energy solutions. But as we'll discuss, not all sources are created equal. Can you briefly compare the effectiveness of current renewables in addressing this crisis?
Solar and wind have seen remarkable growth. Solar capacity grew 22% globally last year. However, their intermittency and storage limitations mean they can't yet provide the 24/7 reliability our grids require. That's where next-gen technologies like fusion come in.
Let's dive into fusion itself. Many people confuse it with fission. Can you walk us through the basic science and why fusion holds such unique appeal?
Certainly, unlike fission, which splits heavy atoms and produces radioactive waste, fusion merges light atoms like hydrogen, releasing immense energy. This mirrors the process powering our sun, offering the potential for nearly limitless clean electricity.
That's a compelling analogy. But what about safety? Fission reactors have had notorious accidents. How does fusion compare in terms of risk and waste?
Fusion's advantage is profound. No long-lived radioactive waste and zero chance of meltdown. If a containment breach occurs, the reaction simply halts. There's no runaway scenario. This fundamentally changes the risk profile.
Building on that, how does fusion stack up against renewables like wind and solar in practical terms: reliability, scalability, and land use?
Great question. A single fusion plant, once operational, can produce gigawatts of power around the clock. By contrast, solar farms require up to 50 times more land per megawatt and depend on weather. Fusion could serve as a baseload anchor for renewables.
So, in an ideal scenario, would fusion replace or complement these renewables?
Ideally, it complements them. Picture a grid where solar and wind feed in variable power, while fusion fills the gaps and stabilizes supply, ensuring we can retire fossil fuels without sacrificing reliability.
Now, let's discuss the revolutionary concept of fusion reactors that don't just avoid emissions, but actively destroy greenhouse gases. How does this process work at a technical level?
The core idea is to inject captured greenhouse gases like CO2s or methane to the reactor's plasma exhaust. High-energy particles break these molecules down into harmless components or even valuable byproducts. It's akin to using a lightning storm to scrub the air.
That's a fascinating analogy. Are there precedents for this kind of dual-purpose technology, or would this be a world first?
While chemical plants have long used plasma-based scrubbing, integrating this with energy generation on a fusion scale is unprecedented. Early modeling suggests a single reactor could neutralize thousands of tons of CO2 annually.
Let's pivot to the hurdles. Fusion has been 30 years away for decades. What are the main scientific and engineering barriers still facing commercial fusion, especially with this advanced greenhouse gas scrubbing?
The biggest challenge remains achieving sustained net positive energy output. Creating and containing plasma at 100 million degrees Celsius tests material limits. Adding gas scrubbing complexity means new design, durability, and efficiency issues to solve.
Given these challenges, what's the realistic timeline for seeing fusion with integrated scrubbing at scale?
With current momentum, private investment exceeded $6 billion in 2023, we could see demonstration plants in 10-15 years. Scaling globally will require a further decade of regulatory approval, infrastructure, and investment.
Given these enormous R&D needs, how crucial is international collaboration for fusion's progress? Are there exemplary models of shared investment or policy?
Absolutely vital. ITER in France is a flagship, uniting 35 nations. But as fusion startups proliferate, cross-border private-public partnerships like the UK's STEP program are accelerating innovation. Policy harmonization and joint funding are key to avoid duplication and maximize progress.
What policy levers can governments pull to fast-track fusion, particularly for reactors targeting carbon removal?
Targeted tax credits, milestone-based grants, and streamlined licensing can make a difference. Mandates for carbon-negative power procurement could create the market pull to justify large-scale investment.
As we look beyond the lab, how might fusion's deployment impact job markets and social equity, especially in communities reliant on fossil fuels?
Transitioning to fusion could create tens of thousands of high-skilled jobs engineers, technicians, maintenance staff. But careful planning is needed to ensure training and opportunities reach displaced fossil fuel workers, promoting a just transition.
There's also the issue of siting. How can we prevent environmental injustice, where marginalized communities bear the burden of new infrastructure?
Community engagement and transparent benefit sharing will be critical. Early studies advocate for co-locating plants near existing energy infrastructure to minimize disruption and maximize economic revitalization.
To wrap up, Dr. Ramirez, with the climate clock ticking, what's your message to listeners about supporting fusion and innovative clean energy research?
The stakes couldn't be higher every year of delay locks in further warming. Supporting fusion research is not science fiction, it's a necessity. We need public pressure, investment, and optimism to turn these blueprints into reality.
And for those who wonder if their voice matters in such a technical field, what can individuals do?
Advocacy counts. Engage with policymakers, support clean energy initiatives, and stay informed. Collective action rooted in hope and urgency can shift the trajectory for generations to come.